YouTube. All right, I'll just check really quickly to make sure that's going. It looks like it is. All right, so we got it all worked out. Let's see. So we are Friday. That puts us out Venus day, and it's going to be Mercury's hour at the moment. The chart of the hour has a Gemini rising, so Mercury is ruling the rising sign. He's doing that from Libra, Venus's sign, in the 5th house in this chart. And let's see, Venus is in Mercury. Oh, so nice. There's like a somewhat mutual reception, even though classically mutual receptions need a classical aspect for that to work. But still, nonetheless, Venus is in Mercury's sign and Mercury is in Venus's sign. So they get to use each other's tools and resources to communicate their messages. And it is the shared hour between them. So that's pretty fun. All right. So first things first, let's start with some announcements. I did a very quick, not quick exactly, but I did a very rough test deck printing of Acanthus and Crow because the cards are so detailed. I was worried that I was working so hard on putting together these cards and it was going to be like way too illegible because of how small it ends up being. And so I couldn't bring myself to do more work on it without first assuaging my fears that that was not the case. So I had a test deck made with the 12 cards that I have drawn so far, and I want to show you guys that in a minute. If I don't know if anyone's going to show up for this live or not, but I think I'll go over them at the end. So that's that. Acanthus and Crow is slowly being completed. I'm hoping that the Kickstarter for that will be sometime early next year, hopefully before April. Some of you, 60 something, I think 58 actually, around, I think 58 people now, are still waiting on your rewards from the Ostara Kickstarter, and I am very sorry and devastated to have to say that. But you know, I knew this was a risk. We're partnering with Reginald Spleen. He's a craftsperson in the UK. He's going through a lot of personal family issues right now. He recently experienced a death in the family, and you know, so it's just been kind of like crazy for him. And because of the tariff situation, the UK is not shipping to America anymore, or at least they weren't when we last communicated. I don't know if that's changed because these situations are sort of like changing constantly. So hopefully that's not the case anymore. I don't know. I just sent an email to him last we spoke. I said, okay, we'll just keep working on the boxes as best you can. And hopefully this tariff situation changes. We can ship them all out immediately. And if not, we'll just figure out what to do from there. But it's, yeah, people are still waiting, unfortunately. So it's, you know, they're handmade, and it's just one guy in a workshop, and it was a lot more orders than I think either of us were expecting. So I did try to tell everybody up front that that was going to be a thing. But I'm thinking that if we can't get these boxes shipped out by the end of October, then I'm just going to ship out all of the rewards that I have and then pay to have the boxes shipped separately when they're done, whenever that is. So that's that for Ostara. But yes, Acanthus and Crow is forthcoming. Hopefully I'll be able to launch the Kickstarter for that early next year, and hopefully it will not get hung up like all of my other Kickstarters have gotten. It seems to be kind of the trend. Like Litha came out early. My very first Kickstarter for the Children of Litha, super early, no problems, everything went super smoothly. The Nameless One was a COVID baby, so the books and the decks were held up in some port for like months and months while they weren't, you know, figuring that stuff out. And then now Ostara, just because of like this tariff situation and because I tried to partner with like a lot of other artists to make it happen, so now there's all these delays. It just seems like there's always something. So hopefully Acanthus and Crow will go a lot smoother. Anyway, let's do some cards. I think I'm going to do the Nameless One. Let's see if we've got some messages from Venus as we wait for anybody who might have a question to filter in. So far, oh, and then let's see, what other things do I have? I recently did a sale for the Maybon sale where everything in my site was 22% off, and I said that I would donate 33% of the total profits to the World Central Kitchen, which to help feed people who are being starved by the forced famine in Gaza. It's just one of many horrible genocidal crimes that Israel's committed against the people of the citizens, the civilians of Palestine. And you know, I couldn't take it anymore. I had been donating little amounts here and there as I could, but I decided like, hey, you know, maybe if we reach out through a sale, we'll be able to generate more for everybody. So I think we raised about $800 and something, which, you know, for one single person on their own isn't isn't too bad. I was hoping for more, but you know, I don't know. It's better than nothing, right? And it's definitely more than I was able to comfortably donate on my own. So, so I'm gonna call it a win. And that was the first time I'd ever tried anything like that, anyways. So it's, you know, it's definitely not something I really know how to do. But I thought, well, it'll be a good start. So that was recently. Hopefully, I'm gonna try to make a live about it to do like the donation live. But to be honest, I'm a little bit worried because they have you like put in all of your, you know, like information, like your address and stuff. And I don't want to show people that, but I do want to be transparent about like, hey, like this is the money I said I was going to donate. Here it is. So, so yeah. Oh, hello, Curry Star. Hi. Thanks for coming. It's just you and me. So if you have any questions, I was just updating whoever watches this live whenever about my recent Maybon sale where I donated 33% of the profits to the World Central Kitchen to help feed people being starved by the forced famine in Gaza. I think I raised like $800 and something, $820 for charity. So that's good. I've never done anything like that before, but I don't know. I was like, I don't know. I have the Venus, Jupiter, Virgo thing, so nothing's ever good enough. I was really hoping to get more for charity, but I don't know. It's better than nothing. It's definitely better than I could have done on my own. So thank you to everybody who participated in that sale and contributed. I also had posted the link to the World Central Kitchen in that email too. So hopefully people just like donated directly, and that's why. That would be good. Anyway, so it is Venus's day and it is Mercury's hour. Last I checked, see if we're still in Mercury's hour. And they are talking to us today through a quasi-mutual reception. Venus is in Mercury's sign of Virgo and Mercury is in Venus's sign of Libra, which are right next to each other, but share ascensional times. So kind of talking, kind of not. They don't technically have an aspect, but you know what? I'm going to call it. I'm really generous with that. Anytime that planets are in each other's signs, I'm like, it's a mutual reception. I don't care if there's no aspect. They know about it. Anyway, so let's see what Venus has to say. Let's see what Venus has to say. Oh, by the way, this will be my Venus return coming up. Venus is at 9 degrees. And my natal Venus is a little bit later, but I'm coming up on my Venus return, so that'll be... I'm sure it'll be horribly depressing, to be honest, because Venus is in fall in Virgo, and it is horribly depressing to try to do good and then be met with systematic failure and oppression and corruption and be like, wow, there is way too much oil in these gears. We are never getting it clean. It will never be perfect. Kind of sucks. But anyway, good things too. So, all right, what does Venus have to say? Let's find out. Well, that's a lot of stuff. I don't think we can do that much. That's a lot of stuff, Venus. What's the most important? What are the keynotes here? Okay, I'm just going to call it. Or, hey, look at that. So we... She didn't like that. Well, I should keep them in order. But so we have Gemini reversed. It's a Gemini rising chart right now. And also, you know, I just told Mercury and Venus have that somewhat mutual reception. Venus has got the South Node with her, but having a Mercury sign kind of like fly out is, yeah, Venus in Virgo always has a bit to say. Exactly. She didn't like my whole, like, okay, what are the top 5? Oh, and look at that. We have the 8 of Wands reversed. So the 8 of Wands is the Mercury-ruled sign, the Mercury-ruled decan of the Jupiter-ruled sign, Sagittarius. It's sort of interesting because, yep, the moon is in the, is in this decan right now, is in the Mercury-ruled decan of Sagittarius. She's at 3 degrees Sagittarius right now, which puts her across from the rising. So this is kind of funny a little bit because we have this, so anyway, so the 8 of Wands is like this divine message, right? Because it's literally, you know, Jupiter ruled sign of Sagittarius. It's Mercury. We're communicating. And what are we communicating? Jupiterian topics. I literally opened with talking about how I recently tried to do this thing for charity and I wish it would have gone farther and faster. So that's kind of funny. We're also talking about Venus in Virgo, where she is currently, where things are like, this is not exactly what I would prefer. She's also got the South Node there. So that's funny. And we're going to, of course, take a look at what these other cards are, but if these are the keynotes, it's just like, yeah, progress is not as fast as I would like, and you know, there's a lot of ideals, there's a lot of hope here, but there's not a lot of things actually happening, and a lot of words and not a lot of meaning. Sometimes when I get the Gemini card reversed, it's like, I don't know, to be honest, to be honest. In my personal experience with this card, it's kind of like my, hey, maybe you're volunteering too much information, or maybe you need to pare down, or maybe you need to proofread, or like stop and think before you talk. Because Gemini, I always associate very strongly with talking, with words, with like the open funnel portion of Gemini. So that's, or sorry, of Mercury. So that's like all of the information before it's been digested, distilled, before it can be reflected upon. So experimental and fun and collecting all of the stuff, but not necessarily evaluating it for like nutritious content. So sometimes when I get this card, it's like, hey, stop talking, which I struggle with. So that's fun. Okay, what else do we have? So we have the Nine of Swords, which is fun because this is the Mars ruled decan of Gemini. I have a natal Mars there. Oh, hey, and actually the ascending degree is at the Mars ruled decan of Gemini right now. So this is like literally the degree of the ascendant, which probably explains why I'm overcome with so much frustration and anxiety. And then we got the Seven of Wands reversed. The Seven of Wands is going to be the moon ruled decan of Aquarius. I wonder if we got anything going on there. Oh, hey, the MC of this chart is in the moon ruled decan of Aquarius, which is kind of funny because, so the moon ruled decan of Aquarius, so Aquarius is like everything that's, you know, beyond the scope of the Capricornian structure, the Saturnian in group, like the hierarchy, the rules, the restrictions, the responsibilities, all of like the typical stuff that you build as the backbone of a culture or society. And Aquarius is kind of like everything that's outside of that, the immigrant, the pariah, the social outcast. And so the moon wants to nest and be comfortable, but the moon here is very vulnerable. So it tends to be like feeling alone, feeling not committed, kind of like figuring out what the situation is or like what the feel is. So sometimes when we see this card reversed, it's like, well, how do I say this? On the one hand, the Seven of Swords has this kind of connotation of being like trickery, thievery, deception, someone trying to get away with something or to pull one over on somebody. On the other hand, it kind of is like this very real need for subtlety that people who, vulnerable, marginalized people who are not protected by the structure of the society need to survive, to depend on. So, for example, if you are surrounded by a bunch of Nazis and Christian nationalists and you happen to be a good pagan, such as my good self, you might not want to be super vocal about your beliefs in mixed company, right? Because you could be like very seriously outcasted for that. You know, worse if you're Muslim, worse if you're Jewish, worse if you're of color, right? Like it just gets, you know, more and more dangerous the more things you have stacked against you that are, you know, seen as other or not protected. And so the moon trying to nest in this space is kind of like figuring out like who is friend, who is foe, who can I be vulnerable and open with, and who do I have to kind of guard myself against. It's also being prepared to leave. Sometimes we see the Seven of Wands, sorry, not Wands, the Seven of Swords, or in this case, blades, because the Nameless One uses blades. But what's in a name, really? Sometimes we see the Seven of Swords reversed when it's like we are preparing to bail, but we don't want to announce that yet, right? Like we're not safe and we're not happy, but so we're not staying, but we're also not declaring anything. You know, we're gonna like figure out how it's gonna go. Mostly is a sign to like keep your wits about you. Be careful about what kinds of, you know, it is an air sign. So this is about information, about culture, communication, mental faculties. So it's kind of like, you know, you might be lowering your guard, lowering your mental swords, and you need to keep that shit up. It's kind of like a weird time. So there's that for sure. We have the Three of Swords. That's kind of fun because that's Saturn's decan of Libra. That is where Mercury is right now. Mercury is in Saturn's decan of Libra. The Three of Swords is about mentally processing grief and grievances. It's also about contracts and obligations, responsibilities, and what happens when those are broken. So, for example, when your government promises to uphold justice and truth and blah, 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 all those wonderful virtues, and then they, I don't know, disappear people without due process, that's like a huge breach in this like social contract that we've all kind of taken for granted, right? So, like the feeling of that anxiety is twofold because it wasn't supposed to be this way, right? Kind of took you for a ride, but also it's like, okay, now we have this serious problem to deal with. But on a more mundane or personal level, you know, the Three of Swords reversed can very easily be like, oh, you know, my partner cheated on me and we agreed that we were going to be monogamous, right? So it's like, it wouldn't necessarily, I mean, it would probably still be uncomfortable if you hadn't agreed to those terms before that happened, but it's doubly uncomfortable now because you specifically set up a plan, an agreement, a contract, if you will, so as to avoid these kinds of betrayals and these heartbreaks. And now you have to mentally figure out, like, okay, well, where do we go from here? Like, what are the what's the word for that? Like, was there an agreed upon reaction, or like, are we gonna, stop this kind of upholding the social harmony? It's interesting too, because, Saturn is exalted in Libra. And I think this is because Libra really speaks to the rules we agree on, these arbitrary, conceptual, cerebral rules that are supposed to make things like good for people and harmonious, right? Like, it's easier to have fun and have like a good time when everyone knows the rules and has agreed to the terms and they're fair, and those terms are upheld. And Saturn is responsible for contracts and responsibilities and obligation and structure. And so this is sort of like, yeah, sometimes rules are good, sometimes rules are fun. On the other hand, Saturn is also a malefic, and he's corruptive, and he's senile, and he's old, and he's like corrupt. So he can corrupt those good things as well, but depending on what's going on. But it's kind of funny how, like, so far we've gotten a lot of like keys with astrology, because yeah, Mercury's right there. So Mercury might be hyper aware of like injustices or breaches of contracts within the social system, because that is Libra, is the scales of justice, among other things. It's just like, what's fair, right? Feels good to be in a system where you feel like you're being treated fairly. Feels good to be in a relationship where you feel like you're being treated fairly. And then when those social contracts fail us, there's a lot of this mental heartbreak and mental processing that the Three of Swords is so well known for. Oh, and then we have the Two of Pentacles. The Two of Pentacles is the Jupiter ruled decan of Capricorn. I don't think we have anything there, so it's just a tarot read. But this is definitely about like keeping things in balance, trying to figure out like where the best possible start is for whatever you're trying to grow or nurture. Capricorn, we talked a little bit about Aquarius already, but Capricorn is like the structure and the system and what is gonna conventionally do well. And then Jupiter's decan of Capricorn is very much like, okay, so how do we give this the best controlled start, right? Like, we want something that's really going to last and endure the test of time. So how are we going to do that? What do we have to balance? How are we going to keep things going? So that's that. We got the Swords, Ace of Swords reversed, not seeing things clearly, confusion, not knowing what to do, where to go, who to turn to, what to believe. I think there's just a lot of that in general. It also should be said, since we did get Gemini here in the beginning, Uranus is 1 degree into Gemini, and it's been interesting so far. Definitely a lot of astrologers were predicting like a rise in AI deepfakes, not knowing what the truth was, not knowing like what information was good, having like really volatile, or like a lot of volatility in communication and in tech, especially since a lot of people associate tech with Gemini and, well, with Mercury, but I think probably more Gemini than Virgo for the most part. I think people generally associate like systems with Virgo. So, and also like, how do you say this? Like, I think there's a certain amount of like distilling the truth or figuring out what's important or whatever. But anyway, I've definitely heard a lot of people like talk about tech specifically for Gemini. So Uranus being in there kind of, how do I say, the propaganda machine, the wheels of the propaganda machine are turning. There's a lot of information and not very much of it seems to be all there. So it's hard to sort of determine like what is the truth. And the really shitty part too is you can have like a snippet of truth taken out of context and then like propose a bunch of other shit around it. Like, it's so confusing, right? To try to figure out like, I mean, just the other day, my mom and I were having a conversation about the government that's being overthrown in Nepal. And I had heard that the protesters were relatively peaceful as far as protesters overthrowing a government can be. And so that while they were going around like burning government buildings and stuff, they weren't necessarily killing people. And so one such example was, I guess they set like some senator or governor or some political person's building on fire. And then they realized that his disabled wife was in the building. So they went into the building and saved her. So I had heard that they saved her and, that was that. The building burnt down, but she was saved. My mom had heard that they killed her. And we were like, oh, well, that's a very different story. So then we researched it and they're like, okay, they did save her, but then she died later. What they're saying are of those injuries. But then I was like, that's so weird that we got like a very different story, which, I mean, it could have been that I just heard earlier version where she was alive and that's all they knew. And then, you know, time passed and the situation changed. But because the spread of information is what it is, we didn't like find that out until later. But it's just an interesting example of like things can be very different depending on, you know, what the context is, what new information is coming, you know, who said it. And it's so, and that's, you know, that's in somebody else's government. So it's even harder, I think, to tell when it's your own, because there's a lot of like intentional messaging that goes around that is explicitly not true. Like there was this media story on Fox News where they're talking about transgendered shooters, like transgendered school shooters, of which there's been like, I don't know, like one, and the vast majority are, you know, straight white men. And they posted, though, this picture of like, I don't know, like 10 people. And they were like, these are all the trans shooters. But then literally people have been like going in and fact checking it. And they're like, okay, only one of these people was actually trans. All of these other people are not. They're literally just lying. So, you know, confusing stuff. And it's also weird because it's like, dude, like, oh my God. You know, we really should be focused on the school shooting part, right? Like not the transgender part. Like it's the being the school shooter is the part that is harmful, not the being the trans part. So maybe we should focus on limiting that somehow, because it's an absolute tragedy and it's disgusting and it's so scary. And other countries do not have to deal with like mass shootings the way that America has to deal with them. So it's just like a big, you know, circus. Everybody's pointing fingers and nobody really seems to want to do anything. We have the Ace of Wands reversed because I am tired, and probably so are you. We have the Two of Wands reversed because hard to see. Yeah. So the Two of Wands is going to be the, oh, interesting. It's the sun-ruled decan of the zodiac sign Aries. Why I said it's interesting is because the Lot of Fortune is there right now, which, you know, I don't think that means that much so far as this like chat, but it is fun because this technically is something. So this is the ability to look ahead and steer your ship with sovereignty, with virtue, to like make decisions as the king of yourself that are good and beneficial, not only for yourself, but for your proverbial kingdom. Because we all have in our lives situations wherein we hold power over ourselves, certainly, but also sometimes over other people, whether that's in somebody's capacity as like a mother, somebody's capacity as, I don't know, best friend whose advice is often taken. One second. Magic, stop it. You stop it. Or a pet owner. Yeah. Anyway, Magic needs to stop chewing on things that she shouldn't, and I am the boss of her. But that's kind of a good example because I know things that she doesn't know, and I have the power to protect her from herself, and her bad decisions could very well result in her death and also my lack of finances from the vet bills. So I get to take the authority in that situation and be like, hey, you're not allowed to have access to this tape roll, actually. It's not good for you. Anyway, yeah, God, she like, you... She's looking at me all cute like she's never done anything wrong in her whole life. Anyway, the point is, so the Two of Wands is about, you know, you're sovereign of self, right? You have conscious awareness, which is a blessing. So thanks Soul, and I guess Mercury as well for that one. And the idea to look ahead and like rule yourself with virtue, right? And why I keep saying virtue is because in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the esoteric title allotted to the Two of Wands is the Lord of Virtue. And this is the sun's decan of the sign Aries, where the sun is exalted, the sun being the seat of sovereignty, of control, of like, you know, leadership and king and ego and personality. And we could very well argue that the ego is sort of like the president of the psyche. You know, there are lots of internalized aspects and components that are not necessarily in agreement all the time. And the ego persona is sort of the uniting force that says, okay, well, part of me wants to eat cake and part of me wants to exercise, but me as a sovereign leader of self, I'm going to say eat cake, obviously. Did you think I was going to say exercise? I really should though. Anyway, yeah, so generally speaking, the personality is the part of you, the ego part, the self part that gets to say, okay, we're doing this thing actually. And presumably, if you're doing it well, which, you know, again, it's reverse. That's why we're eating cake and not exercising. But if you're doing it well, you're doing it with virtue, right? Like you're trying to hold yourself to a moral standard. It's not just that you're being a tyrant king over yourself and others. You're trying to do what's best for everybody. You know, the good father archetype, right? I know what's best for you, but then you actually do. Such is the case with my dog eating that tape. I didn't do it to make her suffer. I did it to make her healthy. But she doesn't know the difference. She's just now upset. Anyway, and then we have Leo upright. Leo is, you know, the domicile of the sun. So that's interesting. Let's look at what the sun is doing. Oh, right. The sun is with Mercury in Libra. And there's nothing except the IC in Leo at the moment. But still, right? Personality, mask, persona. We kind of went in that. Put on a smiley face, actually. You know, what's it like? Tyranny hates a smile. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so that's messages from Venus. If anybody else has any questions for the tarot or for me personally, then just pop them in the chat whenever. Also, thank you so much for being here. My last couple ones have been absent of audience, so it's kind of sad because, I mean, it's fine. I just like ramble on about these cards or whatever. But yeah, so these are like the collective situation as Venus sees it in Virgo. In Virgo, she would have a lot of nitpicky things to talk about, but there are actually some very valid things to talk about, right? We have also, oh, this is the interesting thing. So the South Node is in Virgo as well. And when I was doing that charity thing, I was drafting the email for it literally during the eclipse and the solar eclipse in Virgo that happened a couple days ago. And it was so funny because I did not realize it at the time, which is so like an eclipse. Like, I don't know, Austin Coppock says in his astrology class, in his eclipse section, how there's like this aura of darkness or confusion, or like you're not necessarily going to see things clearly around the eclipse because that's kind of fundamental to their nature. And so if I had known, like if I had realized I was doing this on an eclipse, I probably wouldn't have done it, because generally speaking, I try not to do things on eclipses because they're erratic and crazy and kind of scary and disruptive. But I didn't realize it, obviously. And I decided that I was going to do this charity because I do the sales. I try to do the Sabbath sales every Sabbath. There's, you know, 8 of them in a year. So usually I do that. They're around, everything on my site is like 22% off. Lately, I've been kind of cherry picking certain items because I think that that might be, I don't know, like more, I don't know, like a better business strategy, I guess. I'm not really a business person, spoiler alert. I'm really more of an artist, but I am running my own business, so I kind of have to try new things. And one of the things that I'm trying is to get rid of the stuff that we have the most of. So I've been trying to prioritize that, or prioritize things that are more thematic so that it's like a little bit different each time. I don't know. I don't know how running a business works, to be honest, but I'm trying my best. Anyway, so I thought, okay, so we're doing this Sabbath sale anyway. And I was kind of had all these like weird mixed feelings about it, because on the one hand, there are so many injustices and so many charities that are so worthy of help. And there's only so much resource that I personally have, or that any one person has, unless you're, you know, a billionaire, and we all know they don't help very much. And so yeah, I kind of like was really feeling guilty about, you know, everyone that I help is like thousands more that I don't help and all of this, which is kind of an irrational anxiety, because any little bit is better than none at all, which, by the way, was in my Capricorn rising horoscope that I wrote for everyone, but also like my personal horoscope this month. The one that pertains to me that I wrote. And I try not to think about my own life when I write them. I try to just look at the astrology and at the cards and then put it together, because I don't really want it to be filtered through like my personal experience. But it was so accurate to me this month. I spent so much of this month in heavy nostalgia and trying not to think about anything. And then I was like so like just depressed about how little good I could actually do or accomplish, and trying to figure out like how can I maximize the impact of good. But anyway, the point is, Austin Coppock says in his class that the South Node is like good for spirit, but bad for material stuff, bad for like resources or money or health or that kind of physical stuff. And so literally, like, I really depend on these Sabbath sales to kind of like fund, to like make the numbers work out, if you know what I mean, to like fund my life and everything. And we ended up not making really any more than we would an average Sabbath sale. But this time we're donating 33% to charity, which I do not regret. But it's funny because like after I had done that and I realized what Austin said, I was like, oh, that's so funny because both my benefics are in the ninth house in Virgo and the South Node is in Virgo, where it's bad for money, good for spirit. And I literally donated like 33% of my biggest sale to a charity cause, which was like, yeah, it good for my spirit, but bad for my wallet. So it's which I only mentioned just because the astrology was so funny. And it went, you know, the South Node energy deposits in the North Node location. And so I feel like that was a third house thing because I was writing an email. Third house is very much associated with like writing letters and emails and stuff to my like community, essentially, to my local online community, because they're the same people that I send messages to every month to tell them about sales, in order to try to do like physical, actual good in the day-to-day lives of people, but specifically foreigners, right? Because they was trying to help the people starving in Gaza, the forced famine. And I really need to say that a lot of times because there is food. There are literally people sailing on ships trying to deliver food to these people, and other governments are just like, no, we want them to die, actually. It's just hideous. It's just disgusting. Anyway, so it's completely manufactured famine that's just killing children and women and elderly and everybody. Anyway, whatever. But yeah, so it very much felt like that eclipse, right? The solar eclipse, because I was trying to do, it was on my benefics in the ninth house being like foreigners and also goodness, and like taking that and then depositing it into like a day-to-day routine thing. Like it was really more month to month because I always send these Sabbath sales. But anyway, I was like, oh, that's hilarious. Like it's so astrology accurate. And I just have so much anxiety all the time. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll feel better when the South Node gets off my benefics. But and actually the South Node is like right on, it may have just passed my Jupiter. I don't even remember what degree my Jupiter's at. Anyway, but it's just funny because it just shows you astrology is legitimate. And man, you know, it's funny because on the one hand, I feel like Venus being in Virgo, I have like so much motivation to do good. And also I'm so depressed because it just is never enough. Like no matter what I could do, it feels like it wouldn't be enough. And so I told myself, hey, just be happy if you can get more money than you could get on your own, right? Like that's a victory. If you can donate more after the sale than you could have donated without the sale, that means the sale was productive and it helped, which is true because there's no way I could comfortably donate $800 of my own money without that, right? Without like the extra influx. So it's a lot for me. But then I think about like, damn, that's still not that much. It's really, I don't know. I don't know. It's not like I was expecting a lot either, but it's hard, I guess, is just what I'm saying. Like there's a lot of bad stuff going on. Okay. Really happy to finally make it. Yes, thank you. Astrology is legitimate but depressing at the same time. Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like you're fated, right? Like you get into astrology and you're like, this is so cool and it's so awe-inspiring and wondrous and all the mysteries of the cosmos and why do these things work out the way that they do? You know, synchronicity and simpatica and everything's connected. It makes you feel like part of this big, grand, beautiful system. And then you look into it and you're like, oh, fuck, I guess I'm just destined to suffer, which, you know, objectively, like you can't live life without encountering hardships and suffering and like weird anxieties and all kinds of stuff, right? Because that's the flavor of life. So you know that that's a thing. But then astrology like confirms it and confirms the specific ways that you suffer over and over again. And it starts being like, okay, all right, I get it. Thank you. You start feeling a little bit trapped by your fate, or at least I do. Maybe not everybody does. Anyway. I also hope the donation gets its recipient. Yeah, that's the other thing too. I'm always very worried, right? I spent like 3 hours trying to research charities and like which ones are good and which ones are bad. Because you hear a lot of these stories about like charities end up being fronts for billionaires basically. And then by the time all the stuff gets filtered down, they like don't go to the recipients that they're supposed to go to. And it's very depressing. But apparently the World Central Kitchen is rated as a very good and efficient charity for a lot of people, or by several different sources. Let me just pull it up because I did look. I think I might still have the research. Central Kitchen. I just figured like, and it's hard to know too because I don't even know. I don't. It's just crazy. Life is confusing. There are these like places that like rate charities based on effectiveness and stuff. And I can't remember what they're called though. So I'm just looking it up really quick. But apparently they say it's a good charity. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea who else to take it on to. So, yeah, holding top ratings from Charity Navigator and Charity Watch, indicating exceptional financial health and accountability. The organization is praised for its swift and impactful response to crises by providing food and to affected communities. So hopefully that's a good one. They say it has 100% rating. I don't know. But yeah, who even knows, right? Who even knows? If no one has a question, I have to do a reading tomorrow. I was wondering what that would look like. Oh, okay, cool. You're doing an astrology reading, or I assume it's an astrology reading. Let me make sure that these are nice and shuffled. Cool, that's fun. Are you doing like a professional astrology reading? Like you're going to get paid for it, or like just for friends? Or anyway, not that I can do the reading, but I was just curious. Okay, how will Kuri Star's astrology reading go tomorrow? That seems like a good pull. Okay, so we have the Two of Cups. This is a really good start, seeing eye to eye. This is also the Venus ruled decan of Cancer, so probably we'll be talking about some kind of emotional or intimate things. This is, you know, about feeling good, being like comfortable, being attracted, and not in like necessarily a romantic or sexual way, but just in like a yeah, like I feel seen here, right? Like I feel like we're, you know, connecting in some kind of way, speaking about things that are like of value and Venusian. You might also be talking about relationships in your reading for somebody. Like they might have specifically questions about romance. I do see the Two of Cups also. It can be applied in like a business or work setting, in just like negotiations go well, talks go well. You know, Cancer is intimate and caring and nurturing, and Venus, of course, is Venus, love, relationships, beauty, pleasure, all of that. So generally when we see the Two of Cups, it's like a good talk, a good meeting, seeing eye to eye, you know, talking about what is important and vulnerable, and very much like about relationships. It's a 2 card, so it's early on in the whole scheme of the Suit of Cups. So this is a good start. And then we have the 10 of Cups. But we haven't had the time to research deep enough. So the 10 of Cups this is the Mars ruled decan of Pisces. This is where, how do I say this? On the one hand, this is the last card of Cups, which is interesting because we have like the first card and the last card. This is kind of like, I want to phrase this correctly. How should I say this? So Pisces is about dreams, fantasies, illusions, daydreams. Mars is about aggression, fighting, conflict. This is the card of fighting for our dreams. This is the card of like, you know, we have to throw everything at the wall and give it our best shot. It's now or never. We're doing it because this is the very last circle before we go into the, this is the very last decan before we reemerge into Aries, into the first decan of Aries, the first sign. So this is kind of like the ambiguous waters of Pisces brought to a boil, and now life is emerging again, right? It's not just like everything's been dissolved, everything, we have all of the ingredients for whatever we want to be in this like vat of possibility. Now we're going to turn up the heat and make stuff happen. Like we're going to fight for it. We're going to bring it out of the ambiguous waters of oneness and collective possibility and into the next sign, which would be Aries, right? Which would be, we're going to act on it. We're going to birth something, create something. So on the one hand, you do have significations with this card of like domestic bliss and happily ever after and everything you could have ever wanted. But on the other hand, it's like maybe too good to be true. Like you're fighting for a fantasy, you know, you really want stuff that's like, or in some cases, it can also be like your ability to make something happen is a lot stronger than your discretion on if you should make it happen. However, this is upright. So generally we would say, okay, so more positive significations, like things will go really well and you'll be able to do the things that you want to do. We also have, oh, hey, look at this. We also have the upright Mask of Gemini. So this is reinforcing the idea of like good talks, right? We're going to have a good start, talk about our hopes and dreams and the things that are worth fighting for. We're going to be able to do what we need to do. We're going to be able to talk in like a kind of a good way, right? Be like personable and friendly. And yeah, it's a lot of cups, exactly. A lot of water cards. I do think it's likely you'll be talking about some kind of emotional stuff. We have the reversed Fool. This is like afraid to take a leap, afraid to be spontaneous, afraid to kind of to wing it, wanting to stay rooted, wanting to sort of feel your way around before you jump off into the deep end. And I do wonder too, and maybe if I was wiser, we would have done a little bit more of a structured read to be like how you experience the reading versus how your client experiences the reading, which we could do, I guess, a little bit afterwards. But yeah. Oh, also, Oli Nollie says, I'm kind of afraid to ask after the collective message, but I would like to get input on what's coming up for me next week or what I should focus on next week. Well, yeah, don't be afraid. It's going to happen anyways, right? You might as well be forewarned. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But yes, we'll totally ask about that next. So yeah, so I'm not sure if this is responding to like your potential kind of nervousness or uncertainty as far as taking the leap into this reading or having like full confidence of what it's going to be like, or if this is just further testimony to like, well, you might be talking about vulnerable things and desires and dreams, and there's going to be a little bit of like a hesitancy or not quite wanting to like leap into it. Maybe the person will need to be like warmed up a little bit, you know, verbally, like given a little bit of encouragement to open up. So this could be about hesitation to open up or to like to believe, to have faith. A lot of the times when we have the Fool reversed, it's really just not enough faith to take that leap, right? We're kind of still a little bit rooted. Oh, and then we have the Seven of Cups. So we have more cup cards. It really seems like you might be talking about some emotional stuff, some watery stuff. This is the Venus ruled decan of the zodiac sign Scorpio. This is where we get super in, right? Like you might be discussing, I don't know, like deep psychological stuff or potentially psychological traumas or traumas that result in specific types of attraction. Or yeah, I don't know, like there is this kind of vibe with the Venus decan of Scorpio where it's like we get so into it, it becomes like, I don't want to say perverse, but like intense, right? Like really intense and really passionate and kind of like dissolves things. It's very much that scorpion poison, but in like poison good, right? This is kind of almost like, I don't know, like Alice in Wonderland or the fairy realm or you know, kind of like exploring taboo relationships or exploring taboo things in society. Like it's something that's like kind of corrosive and intimate and like wish fulfilling, but also is kind of like scary or intense. So it's kind of interesting to see come up in the whole like context of, well, you're gonna like do an astrology reading for somebody. They could just be getting into like intense desires, or maybe they have like a secret wish that they really want. Or you know what else could be the thing? They have heard that this is the case with people doing readings, and I've definitely had this experience with like tarot readings and stuff as well. Sometimes clients come to you and they say they want a specific answer to a specific question, but there's like a secret question that they really want to ask, but they're either too embarrassed or too shy, or they don't quite know what it is. So there might need to be some kind of Gemini like figuring it out, right? Like opening up with a lot of questions or getting through a lot of questions before we can like really get to the heart of like, okay, what is it that you really want to know, right? Let's get into like the nitty gritty of like, what is this thing? So it seems like it's going to start off really pleasant, get off to a good start, going to either talk about or deal with or have some kind of thing where we're working towards dreams, desires. This is another Martial water card, right? Because this is the Mars ruled decan of Pisces. This is the Venus ruled decan of Scorpio, which is a Mars ruled sign. So it definitely feels like there's going to be a lot of like intense emotion coming up. But none of these cards are necessarily, really none of these cards are negative. The worst one so far is the Fool reverse, which just speaks to like needing to take that leap of faith to like build that trust. So that could be a situation. And then we have the 10 of Wands. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of burden. It's like, how do I say this? Let's start with the astrology because that I find is the most fun and accurate. The 10 of Wands is the Saturn ruled decan of the zodiac sign Sagittarius. Sagittarius is Jupiter ruled. Jupiter is about faith, miracles, abundance, optimism. But Saturn is kind of like the antithesis of all of those things. It's about limitations, restrictions, burdens, responsibility, obligation, foundation, blah, blah, blah. And so what we have with this mixing of energies in this decan is like, okay, having faith is a huge burden. Taking up a lot of hope is a huge burden. It's very heavy, right? To put everything on the line and like believe in something can feel very overwhelming and scary and like a big deal. The other thing too is that if we want to make our dreams come true, we then have to adopt the burdens of success, because that's also a thing. So if Sagittarius is this optimistic Jupiter ruled fire sign, like, yeah, go get him, everything's going to work out, we're going to have so much fun, it's going to be great. And then you say yes, yes, yes to everybody's requests along the way. And then before you know it, you're overburdened with like, oh man, I did succeed in getting what I wanted, but now I have, all of these things to do, all of these yeses I said I would do, I have to make good on now. It starts to become kind of heavy, right? This kind of like need to do your thing starts to get too much, or like feel like too much. And the other interesting thing too is that this is as far as the tarot perspective, this is the last card in the suit of wands. And so the suit of wands is like the action adventure suit. It's like we're going to go do our thing, conquer the day, make our dreams a reality. We're going to just do what we want because we want it, because it's part of our vision. It's our drive, our passion, our motivation. And when we get to the 10, we're like, okay, this is it. This is the climactic scene. Like, the Hobbit throws the ring of doom into the volcano, or he doesn't, right? There's no turning back. Whatever happens, it's going to happen. And then we'll have to deal with the fallout after that. So yeah, it's just a lot of responsibility. I think that probably in the context of the question being about your astrology reading, there will be a lot of like intense opening up and a lot of really intense questions or feelings that then you might feel responsible for. And you might have to be careful about how much responsibility you take for your part in the reading, right? Because on the one hand, you do have a responsibility to guide this person towards whatever is most helpful to them, given the information that you're gonna have. And on the other hand, that's a big burden, but it's also like you can't control them. You can't control what message they receive or what they do with that information. So the best that you can do is try to have these kinds of like Saturnian barriers where it's like, okay, this is my responsibility, this is your responsibility. Like, this is the information I see. Here are some of the options that I can envision for you, and now you get to go and make your choices, and that's it, right? Like, try not to take on too much. And this is a thing too with Sagittarius in general. Just like whenever I have to deal with shit in Sagittarius, and maybe this is me because my 12th house is Sagittarius and my North Node is there. But I've noticed, for example, whenever the moon is in my 12th house in Sagittarius, there's this intense like wanting to take on way too much and then being really burnt out by it. I think Sagittarius has a lot of spark and not actually that much strength. And so it can become very important to set boundaries with like, because it's not coming from a bad place. It's always like, I want to help. So yes, sure. Okay. Yeah. I'll take on that. I'll take on this. It's like taking on too much responsibility for another person's well-being. It's not actually even helpful to that person, right? Like they need to, and this is something I struggle with too, just in general, but like people need to live their own lives and have their own destinies and experiences. And there's only so much you can do to, I don't know, get in front of that. Like some people are determined to destroy themselves. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. Just that like you can't take full responsibility for their choices one way or the other, right? You can point out all of the information, but they are the ones who have to do something with it. So yes, on the one hand, be responsible, be aware that they are putting their trust and faith in you and that it's kind of a scary situation for them. But at the same time, it is their life, right? And that's what we do as astrologers and as tarot readers. You see information, you make correspondences and connections, you work with the person to try to figure out like, okay, how does this apply to you? What do I see this shaking out for you? And then based on the information, like, it's very much like a co-creator, right? Now you get to be because you're just a consultant. Anyways. And then the Two of Pentacles, which we have talked about before. This is Jupiter's decan of Capricorn. This is like figuring out ratios, really. All of the things, how do I say this? Okay, so you know how Saturn likes to do limits and set boundaries and restrictions and also cause things to die or not withstand the test of time, all of that. And Jupiter really wants things to grow and to be big and abundant and like nice, jovial, wonderful, right? Miraculous, you might say. And all life growing all the time is miraculous. It's a miracle. And so when we have something and it's starting, whether it's like, you know, an astrological consulting business, a reading with a new client, setting up anything new, planting a seed in your garden, right? You always want to set the stage to have the most optimal material benefits it can possibly have, right? Because you can't control the weather, but you can control where you plant the seed. If it's in a place that's going to get more sun or more shade. And if you know the nature of the seed, you can match those things so that seeds that grow into plants that want more sun get more sun, and seeds that grow into plants that want more shade get more shade, et cetera, et cetera. You can also, for example, you can't make it rain, but you can water a plant that's not getting enough water. And if you see that it's raining, you can stop watering that plant so as not to overwater. So this is the kind of like workshopping I see a lot with the Two of Coins, and it's a material card. It's an earth card. So it is about material things. This is about managing your time, your space, your labor, your body, your money, all of your material stuff, your physical environment. So for example, if you're going into this meeting, like set yourself up for success. Make sure that you're well rested. Make sure that you have eaten. Make sure that you have water next to you in case you need water. Make sure that you have looked at the information that you've looked at. Make sure that you have figured out how to pronounce their name, right? Like all of the things that you can control, like try to do that ahead of time to set yourself up for success if you can. And even just like very simple things, and I do see this a lot with the Two of Coins, it can be a physical location issue. Like if you're doing a Zoom call, make sure that you're in a place that has good Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? Because figuring out like the ideal location is sort of the start of any material endeavor. For example, you might not want to, I don't know, open up a surf shop in the Himalayan mountains, right? Like that would not be an appropriate location for that business to thrive. So I assume, I've actually never been to the Himalayan mountains. It sounds cold. Anyway, so that's the kind of thing that we're talking about with the Two of Coins, right? It's like you kind of have to figure out like, okay, will this work in this location with the tools that I have, or do I need to make a change? Do I need to invest time or space somewhere else? This is the beginning of the suit of coins, so there is time to change the trajectory, and there is time to sort of evaluate and kind of balance it out. And also it could be just a nice, I mean, you've got 2 twos, right? So this is a beginning of a thing. I assume, I don't know. I happen to know that you're a student of astrology. I don't know how many astrology readings you've done for specific clients or how many you've done for this specific person, but it's looking like it's kind of new. It's kind of a beginning thing. And this could be a good time to sort of figure out like how heavy to come on in certain ways, right? How much to apply certain resources. Definitely a good experience, but for the most part, it seems good. It seems good. It seems like some normal stuff, like figuring stuff out. But I also think, I wonder too if you will be a little bit surprised by how intimate it is, how much they open up to you as an astrologer, and that might contribute to this feeling of burden and this reverse Fool card, not having a lot of faith in yourself. Could be that. Could also just be that they are surprised by how much they open up or are vulnerable. But there definitely seems to be a little bit, on the one hand, some hesitation because of this, and on the other hand, a lot of intimacy and a lot of emotion. By far, the most cards you got, I guess I shouldn't say by far, because it's, you know, it's 3, but still, the most cards you got were water, which makes me think it's going to be an emotional experience. The cards that you got were pretty positive. And the 7 of Cups is not negative. It's just really intense and kind of weird. It could take kind of a surprising turn. The 7 of Cups also happens to not correspond, but come up a lot in situations where not all is as it seems. And that's why there's a serpent in the wishing well, right? There could be a little bit of delusion here or fantasy here. So I don't know, just be mindful of that. Like, the Seven of Cups is kind of tricky because it looks like there are a lot of possibilities and a lot of options, and indeed there may be, but sometimes it's like good things turn bad and bad things can be good, and it's all very confusing, right? Because Scorpio is about that putrefaction where all of that stuff kind of melts down, and it does create the foundations of life, but it's messy and it's kind of icky, and there's a lot of stuff to figure out, you know? So that's the only thing I would say. It's not that it's bad, but it probably will maybe get a little weird. Intimate. I don't know. Intense. Things you might associate with Venus and Mars. Right? It's kind of like, but yeah, overall, it's a good meet. This is a good card. It's upright, so we've got good significations there. Gemini upright, whereas before we got her reversed, so that changed for you. That means that you're going to be good at talking, unlike what I was at the beginning of this. I'm really scared to scare people. Well, that could just be that, right? Some hesitation and stuff. But yeah, it seems like I don't think you're going to scare them, but I do think there is a possibility of like an intimate exchange. And I think that might be more than potentially either of you are really expecting. So yeah, I feel comforted already. Thank you for the warnings. This is exactly it. It's a lot of responsibility to tell someone their fate. For sure. For sure. And it's hard too because astrology gives you like a really good, compelling trailer, but it is a trailer. And you know how trailers will always take things out of context and be like, will this be the most traumatic thing ever? Potentially. And you're like, oh yeah, it was potentially. Or so, you know what I mean? Like, there's always that kind of like, oh, does Saturn mean death or does Saturn mean responsibility? Does Mars mean you're going to get in a fist fight or does Mars mean you're going to join a gym? You know, does Venus mean you're in love or does Venus mean you want to buy jewelry? Like, there's all these like nuances, you know. Is Mercury talking or is Mercury listening? So, for sure, there can be some wiggle room, right? And so it's like it's so funny too, because I don't know. It'll be an experience. The card under the deck is the Mask of Leo. So probably you or they will be very, Leonine, charming and social and making people feel warm and welcome and telling them that they have power and encouragement and having all of these like good Leo-like kinds of qualities, right? The showmanship, having a very lively, good time, basically. And again, like these two court cards are upright. So if we are interpreting court cards as being individuals, probably it will go well. We've got two upright court cards and we've got the upright Two of Cups. That's very social and it's very positive. So yeah, I don't know, looks good. Yeah, I think good, but some anxiety, some tension. Because, you know, like you said, it is a lot of kind of responsibility to tell somebody their fate. Aw, you're welcome. Kurizar says, thank you, Zia. This place is really great. I'm glad you like it. I know I really like giving readings for people. Oh, and also, because I don't know who is going to be watching this video when I make it live on YouTube and stuff, I'm going to be attending Pagan Pride in Long Beach this year. And I actually don't know when that is, and I should know because I paid to have a vending seat there. 2025. Yeah, I'm looking it up right now because I thought I should tell people. Okay, Sunday, October 12th. It's coming up, and I should know. I should know that, but I don't. I do now. It's fine. Yeah. Okay, so I'll be at Pagan Pride at Long Beach, October 12th, at the Rainbow Lagoon. I'm a vendor there. So if you're going to be in Long Beach, come say hi and patron my witchy wares. Why don't ya? That's my business pitch. I'm sticking to it. Come buy my stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I hate advertising. I'm not good at it. I'm just like, see the value in it or don't. Like, I don't know. I like it. I work really hard on it. I don't know. That's probably more cavalier, more flippant than I actually feel. I mostly just feel really anxious. And I don't really have a lot of like social stamina. I'm kind of a recluse. There's this song I listened to. I just found it randomly because it was one of those, you continue the playlist and it plays random new music for you. But there's this line in the song and it's like, am I a recluse or just a damaged kid? And I was like, oh, yeah, I might be a damaged kid. Anyway, it's funny because I was listening to that song on a run and then I was like, that does sound like me. Sounded like it may start or feel awkward, but you'll slay, Kuri. I think Kuri will. I happen to know Kuri is a very amazing astrologer, so I have no doubt you'll do well. But the tarot cards are definitely encouraging. Nothing said bad time, tragedy, misinformation. And actually, you know what? The Gemini card could have, if it was reversed, I would definitely be like, oh, maybe you don't say the correct thing, but it was upright, so probably you will. Probably you'll say it in a really fun, entertaining way because Geminis are hilarious. Anyway, Geminis are playful. Girl, I hope. I need return clients. Don't we all? That is, yeah, totally. I feel that. Okay, so Oli Nollie. Oh, look, we have some stuff already. That like popped right out for you. So Oli Nollie wants to know about, we're saying the week, right? Yeah, the next week. Okay, I had to check. Those flew out for you. I didn't specify the time period, so we're keeping them as just to keep an eye on. But Oli Nollie wants to know the week ahead, and we got some jumpers. We're gonna do some more. I'm kind of some cards needed to turn over for you. Aw, you guys are so nice. Okay. Wow. Okay. So these guys flew out first, so we're going to talk about these first. Okay. Also, maybe this is a bit of a cheat, but if you happen to know your rising sign, please do put it in the comments because that's always fun. I only say that because we have the 3 of Cups, and right off the bat, last time I checked, and I don't know if it's still true. Okay, well, it's no longer the case, but this is the Mercury ruled decan of Cancer. And last time I did this reading, Jupiter was actually in that decan. So I was like, oh, damn, I wonder if that's a thing. But anyway, still Jupiter is in Cancer. So that's still true. But just not in this decan. So this is the Mercury ruled sign of the zodiac sign Cancer. And Cancer is about, it's the moon's domicile. So it's about nurturing and the vulnerable parts and the parts you want to take care of and protect. And doing that right takes a ton of energy and time and is difficult. And Mercury is about communication. And this card I really associate with the power or ability to communicate with your emotion, communicate emotionally, but also to understand people because of the close and intimate relationship you share with them or because of the past precedents you set with them. So, for example, the 3 of Cups is really of the energy like, okay, so you're drunk with your friends at a bar and everybody's kind of like slurring and it's totally like just incomprehensible jargon to everybody outside of that intimate friend group. But to that friend group, they know exactly what they're talking about, right? Like there's this connection there where the accuracy of the words is not the point. You're communicating the feeling. But just like in this drunken situation, these like friendly, nostalgic, loving, slurring, jovial times can very easily be shifted when the emotional tide changes into like conflicts and escalations and hurt feelings without intentionally meaning to, and having that accuracy lost and that emotional sensitivity picked up can sometimes be a blessing and a curse, because on the one hand it makes you very sensitive. You might very well pick up things that are not spoken but are true. But, the ability to misinterpret or to be overly emotional in response is very high. It's really like communicating underwater, right? Where like you might be able to get a general vibe, but you won't really be able to hear the words very quickly or clearly, I mean. So on the one hand, Mercury generally struggles in the water signs. On the other hand, this is the sole decan that he has and I think, let me check before I say that, but I'm pretty sure that's true because I think I was just thinking about this the other day, but I should fact check. Yeah, yeah, I'm right. Yes, I am. Right? Yes. Yes, this is the only decan he has in any of the water signs. And Pisces is his detriment and his fall, so he doesn't like Pisces typically, although I will say I think Pisces makes Mercury very poetic. Anyway, he doesn't like Pisces. Scorpio's kind of neutral, but it's Scorpio. It's ruled by a malefic, so that's a little tender. Cancer is his best shot, and in this specific decan is his best shot. So communications in this specific sphere. And it's so interesting too, because it really speaks to the power of intimacy and like emotional, like it's really pathos, right? When we communicate with emotion, we convince people with our emotional arguments, not our logical ones. We say like, how do you feel? And like, you know, try to hit the issues to make people like sympathetic or empathetic towards the cause or issue. So anyway, all of these things are kind of bundled up into this card, into this decan. And when it's reversed, we see like, okay, a lot of emotion and not a lot of facts. Things can be kind of escalating unintentionally, or kind of melodin, or just it's like overly sentimental or overly emotional, overly sensitive. It can also be feeling like you're not part of that intimate friend group or not part of that intimate relationship, whatever situation that happens to come into. And then we have here the gesture of Earth. And so this is really fun because in the Nameless One, these gestures are totally like people who use these elemental moods to kind of like make fun of a situation, make light of a situation, or explore, or kind of like be satirical about it or be sarcastic about it. In the earth signs, we have this like wanting to play with material resources. And there's a potential here that it won't be received super well. Somebody might be like, I don't know, kind of goofing off, but somebody else is like, hey, we need to focus because, you know, so-and-so has a lot riding on this or whatever. Generally speaking, I don't know, earth signs are kind of funny because there can be, on the one hand, earth provides a lot of stability for water, right? Like you can be, you know, the rock that the tide beats against. On the other hand, it can create very murky, muddy waters, and it can be difficult to kind of figure out what is actually, I don't know, like core, right? Like what's actually going on beneath these like rocky tides. So it's interesting because, you know, earth and water do harmonize, they do sympathize. And so there is kind of this like, how should I say this? Overall compatibility between these elements, between these cards. Yet this one is reversed and this one is upright. It might be that like somebody's kind of overly emotional and is like freaking out about something, and someone else wants to be like, hey, you know, it's okay. Like, you don't have to be like that, right? We'll just focus on this practical thing, or maybe let's play around with some possibilities, and maybe we'll like try a couple different things. And I say to like, the gestures like to play and have fun and try things, experiment, and earth is material. So, you know, maybe somebody is like really worried about a material thing, like, I don't know, like their finances or their education or their labor. And someone else is like, well, I don't know, why don't you try investing in a couple different things? And they're like, no, I really need one thing to pay off, you know? And it's kind of like there's not a match of seriousness here, which can be, oh, you're a Cancer rising. Oh, cool. That's nice because we're like, have a Cancer right here. I wonder what degree your rising is in. Anyways, so then we also have this card here. The Seven of Wands is interesting because it is about, on the one hand, setting up barriers. It can be about like limited resources, competing over resources, trying to fight for your personal needs or what you specifically want. This is the Mars rule decan of the zodiac sign Leo. So Leo is about the self, it's about the king. Mars is about fighting. This is like the power to fight and defend for your heart's truth, right? To fight for who you are and what you want. It's also the ability of like kings literally to go out and decide that what they want is important enough to like start wars over. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the place in Leo where this card is at. On the one hand, we on the one hand, we build fortresses, we build walls to secure our own resources and protect what we have. On the other hand, you know, when those walls are breached, we say, okay, that is a violation. Now I'm going to fight because that's, you know, those that's an act of war, right? So this card is kind of interesting because it's definitely like shows a certain amount of rigidity and strength, but also it's very much in defense of whatever your personal authentic truth is. If you are a Cancer rising, which by the way, my husband's a Cancer rising and it's his birthday today, but he's at school. So anyway, sorry, that has nothing to do with you. I'm sorry. It just is like association. Anyway, if you're Cancer rising, then Leo is going to be your second house of finances and wealth and stuff. And because we already have a gesture card here and then we have another earth card here, it seems like there may be some kind of issue with finances and or like personal resources. I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about the devil to push this up because the devil is Capricorn. For you, Capricorn is going to be the 7th house of like partner, intimate relationships, people you are like one-on-one with and close to. Also people you make contractual agreements with. And I don't really know why that's not brought up a lot, but I find pretty repeatedly, and maybe this is just because I'm doing like freelance stuff right now, but really anyone you have a one-on-one relationship with, sometimes in like older text that's translated as like open enemies. It's rarely that, but that has happened once to me before in a very funny way. But also people you make contracts with, like when you marry somebody, that's like a contract you make with an intimate partner, but there are all kinds of contracts and intimate relationships that you can have. So I do wonder if perhaps like somebody that you are involved with, not necessarily romantically, but potentially romantically, but somebody who you have a one-on-one relationship with maybe is overindulging or is maybe kind of chaining themselves with these shackles that are supposed to be like, how do I say this? Like false virtue or false sin. This idea of if I only had more money, then I would be free. But then you acquire all this money and you're like bound to it and enslaved by it. Just as, you know, for an example, or like if you're not careful, your possessions will possess you kind of a thing. Like I know that, so Capricorn is associated with the devil card in tarot because the devil is about like the self-imposed bondage that we take on. And it usually is because it's what society tells us will liberate us, but actually it binds us further. Saturn is about restrictions, rules, responsibilities, structure. Also like everything that's within the system as it is, especially in Capricorn, that's what he's about, you know? And so there is kind of like, you make deals with the devil to procure some kind of security, but the price is always kind of more than you want to pay, you know? There's this line in Hadestown, which I don't know if you know about Hadestown, but it's a really great musical, and it's basically like a revamp of the Orpheus Eurydice myth with also the abduction of Persephone wrapped up in there as well. And there's this, it's really, really good. And it's kind of set in the Industrial Revolution. But anyway, there's this part where all of the people in Hades are like building this giant wall. So the river Styx is like a river of steel. It's like a giant wall to keep all of like the poor and impoverished out. And so everybody who's in Hades is like given a job and given, you know, protected from the cold harshness of like the out of sync natural cycles that are up above and all this stuff. And so there's this line when they say like, oh, we build a wall and then call it freedom. But it's like, yeah, like, you know, you construct all of these prisons that you then fight to the death to like prolong. So when we get the devil reversed, it can sometimes be like a freeing of that baggage or bondage, or like realizing that, hey, like people say this is a virtue, but it's become a vice, or people say this is a vice, but actually it's a virtue. You do see the devil card come up reverse a lot with like sexual liberations specifically, because there's a lot of like shame and baggage that comes along with that, but it is like natural and can be good and, you know, is ruled by Venus, which is a benefic, but there's a lot of like self-imposed shame that comes from our culture that you didn't really ask for, but you have to deal with anyway. And I only bring that up too because we've got a 7th house thing. I don't know if somebody that you know is going to be dealing with these topics, or potentially you will be dealing with these topics with like a partner if you have one, or I don't know, it could not be about that at all. It could be more like I don't know, me and a business partner took on a bunch of obligations and we thought it was going to do good, but actually now I'm starting to feel like it's not, and our communications are a little bit rocky about it, and I want to stay the course and be firm, or they want to stay the course and be firm, but I think we should play around and have a little bit more, have a little bit less like stake in it or something like that. So there's a couple different ways that kind of stuff could manifest, but it's seeming like there is a potential for miscommunication, and also potential to recognize that something that you think might be in your favor actually isn't, and then to course correct that. This is so funny. We also got the Mask of Capricorn reversed, so you're getting a lot of like naughty Capricorn energy, because this is also literally Capricorn. So it is really doubling up on that message for your 7th house. I wonder why. I wonder what you might have going on in there. Also the moon is in Capricorn right now. So, I wonder if that has something to do with it. Feeling some kind of way about relationships or about the partner. Let's see what the moon is doing. The moon is making this trine to Venus in Virgo, which is, next to the South Node in the 3rd house. So I wonder if that's feeling, I think sometimes the moon in Capricorn can feel a bit caged and lonely. Saturnian moon things can feel lonely, and but I don't know, Capricorn moon is also very much about like not indulging in your emotions for the sake of like meeting goals or pursuing a hierarchy. Like Capricorn moon is a very good time to ignore lunar function, which is not necessarily healthy, but is sometimes advantageous. Like, for example, Capricorn moon, and I have a Capricorn rising, so for me, Capricorn moons are great because I feel like I get a lot of work done. But I think what that translates to in the way that we typically live our lives is like, oh, I forget to eat and I forget to drink water and I don't take breaks, but I get a lot of work done, right? Because the moon is about needs and your body and your emotional and physical body and the needs that they have. So when the moon is in Capricorn, she's as far away from her domicile Cancer as possible. And so she doesn't have a lot of power there. And so you get this sense of like, I don't know, almost like she's being held hostage. Like you don't get to ask for a break if you have no consideration or power. You know what I mean? Like if you feel really awkward and like not at home, you're not going to like ask for special privileges. So I feel like for the moon, what that means is like, okay, we're putting aside our need to be healthy because somebody wants us to be a workhorse or something like that. So I don't know. I kind of like the moon in Capricorn, but I think there is I think sometimes I like it for unhealthy reasons. And I think that can very much be like a devil reversed energy, right? Like being bound to this thing. And on the one hand, you feel like you get so much out of it, but on the other hand, it's like at what cost? So that's interesting. And then let's see, what else do we got going on? Jupiter is making this little trine to Saturn again. So Saturn would be in your 9th house where the North Node is currently. Wonder if there's lots of one thing that was said by somebody in an astrology forum that I thought was really clever was that the North Node in Pisces is like hungry for a miracle. And one thing that I personally have come to know that Saturn in Pisces energy brings up, at least in my observations a lot, is this knowing very intimately that there's a limit on how much faith and goodwill will get you. In the beginning when Saturn was in Pisces, like, what was that? I think that was like in the beginning of Saturn being in Pisces. Was that around? I suppose I shouldn't fact check it. It's not that relevant. But anyway, there was a point when saying thoughts and prayers and like manifesting good energy like meant something. And that corresponded with Saturn's beginning ingress into Pisces way back when, like 3 years ago or something like that. And towards the end, where Saturn has just retrograded back into Pisces, I feel like a lot of us are kind of realizing like, oh, there's a limit on how much good grace that gets you. And there's a limit on how much good just like fun vibes and feelings are, like a limit to how much faith you can have, a limit to how much goodwill you can have. I think Saturn being in Pisces is very much like finding the limits of that like kind of vague Piscean wisdom of all the oneness and all the wonders and all of the good stuff. And that idea of like, if I just stay the course and I'm passive, things will work out and things will be good. And I do think that Saturn's revisit into those final degrees is like, will it? Will it though? Anyway, so you have this nice trine. Whoops. Oh, I just dropped a bunch of cards. Between, and I don't know. It's funny too because like, when does Jupiter go retrograde? He goes retrograde kind of soon, doesn't he? Hold on, let me look really quick. I thought it was kind of soon, but maybe not. Maybe it's next month. Or in a couple months. Why does he do it? Oh, my iPad is losing batteries. I guess it's not for, oh, there it is. I was like, I guess it's not for a while. It's November 11th, or sometime around November 11th. I didn't do it by the hour, so by the day, November 11th, then Jupiter will be retrograding. Yeah, Jupiter's in your first house right now, which means generally speaking, and normally, that would be like, oh yeah, a lot of faith and blessings and abundance and goodness and all of the things that Jupiter represents, mirth and miracles, like coming directly to you or being embodied by you and all this good stuff. But Jupiter's actually kind of had a rough go of things while he's been in Cancer. For the vast majority of it, so far, he was squaring Saturn and Aries, and Saturn and Aries was really gnarly because Saturn's in fall there. Now he's trining Saturn, but it's like, I don't know how much help that reasonably gives. I mean, it's better than Saturn being against you, I guess. But it's this idea of like, there might be some good in like honing the amount of like philosophical or spiritual goodwill and maybe focusing it or redirecting it in ways that are helpful to you personally or that will help you personally. So I wonder if that's maybe what like Saturn trining Jupiter in the first from the ninth looks like, or potentially like limiting, I don't know, maybe just like reining it in a little bit or like focusing more could be. But yeah, but sorry, now I'm just like getting too into the astrology. We should get back to the tarot because I'm losing focus. But it's always interesting to know people's rising signs because then you get to know all the little like transits and stuff, even though I don't know the rest of your planetary placements. So can't be more specific because if you had planets in those houses, they might, that might be a bigger deal. Anywho, yeah. It definitely seems like material stuff is going to be an issue. Right under reverse Capricorn, we have the Five of Pentacles reversed. And I do find this is the Mercury ruled decan of Taurus. I find that this card is really more about worrying about worst case scenarios and what could possibly go wrong than it is actually having those things happen necessarily. So Taurus, first of all, is an earth sign, so we're dealing with material things. It's ruled by Venus, which means we're dealing with pleasure, and it's a fixed sign, which means we want things to continue for as long as possible. So Taurus is about maintaining a state of fixed material pleasure for as long as possible. Mercury is here because to do that, we have to think ahead and figure out, okay, how do we maximize what's good? How do we keep it going for as long as possible? And what are the threats for how it could go wrong? And then how do we come up with contingency plans for it to go right again? So you end up spending a lot of time troubleshooting what could happen, what might happen, what's happened in the past, and figuring out like a good practical way to make that work. When the Five of Pentacles shows up reversed, we're starting to feel a little bit less anxious about it. So we might have been thinking about like, I should get my chart at some point. Yeah, just to like, it's always nice to have more information. But yeah, so it seems like finances or some kind of material thing. It doesn't have to be money. It could be literally, it could be food. It could be food, time, labor, space, education, just, earthy material things. things you can touch for the most part. And we include education because generally education we get specifically to like do a thing, like how to do a thing to get a good job to get the money, you know. It's a little bit of an air thing as well, but if it was knowledge for knowledge's sake, I'd say it was air. But if it's like I'm learning how to do a skill or trade or craft, or I'm going to school so that I can like learn how to apply information to make resources, right? Then that's why we kind of, and plus it takes a lot of time, and time is a thing you can spend. So that's why that. But there might have been some concerns about that. It seems like those concerns this week will be alleviated somewhat, but I don't know. So maybe this reverse Capricorn energy is about like overdoing it, like wanting to be really, really tight and keep everything contained within, and then having that cause some kind of emotional duress or some kind of social thing. The Three of Cups is a very social card. So it seems like you're probably going to have some kind of, I don't know, talk with somebody, a meetup with somebody, maybe like a friend group drama or something. But it's very material sounding, and you want to stand your ground. You're going to want to stand your ground for some reason, or like fight for a certain angle on it. This is basically like the scarcity card, but it's reversed, which means, you know, the situation is lessening. We're figuring stuff out. Things are like, maybe we won't be so afraid to play around with certain situations. But something about this is going to set off kind of like a negative emotional response. It's interesting though. I don't know, maybe we're upset with how the partner is spending their time, if you have a partner, because, I don't know, like the Three of Cups reversed can kind of be about, like an odd man out, or maybe, I don't know, group drama, friendship drama, that kind of thing. Like colloquially in the tarot verse, right? We sometimes say, oh, the Three of Cups reverse can be an affair, right? Because three is a crowd. But I find more often than not, it's kind of about feeling left out in some way, right? Like two of these cups are not like the other, or one of this cup is not like the other. So it's almost like, oh, like everyone is getting along, but I somehow am like not feeling that. So I don't know. Oof, lots of information. Yeah, how do you feel about all of that? It's not looking like horrible, but it's also not looking super fun. It looks like you might have to get a lot of stuff in order, is kind of the vibe I'm getting. Like there's gonna be dealing with a practical matter, and then the emotions that are not super thrilled about how that is gonna shake out, I guess. But a lot of this is seeming to center around earth practical things. I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 earth cards, 1 fire and 1 water. So it definitely feels like some kind of maybe ego battle or territory battle, or wanting resources to go a certain way and then somebody else doesn't. So there's maybe friction there. But yeah, it definitely feels like we're going to get stuff figured out, or have some kind of practical plan that needs to work itself out or something like that. Yeah, very interesting stuff for sure. I can't help but feel, because we got 2 Capricorn cards, it's got to be something in that 7th house. So I wonder if, I don't know, can I ask if you have a partner? Because if you do, how do I say this? Like the 7th house can be a lot of people, but if you have a partner, then the kinds of 7th house topics that are manifest are probably going to be about them, just because if you do have a partner, you're with them so much, right? Most people are with their partner more than any other intimate relationship that they have. So when those topics come up, they generally come up like with that person. Yeah, okay, you do? Great. So I think it could also be that your partner is dealing with all this shit and you're going to have to navigate it somehow, because you got 2 Capricorns and that's your 7th house. So that makes me think we should be looking at the 7th house especially, and that maybe, I don't know, maybe they're spending more than they're supposed to be spending and you have to crack down on that, or maybe vice versa even. Although, to be honest, this really gives the vibe of the Capricorn party maybe not being their best self in the moment. Maybe, I don't know, being reckless with their resources, or I don't know, some kind of like what should I say, maybe just something that worries you a little bit. Maybe that's what the scarcity card is about. Oh, a Capricorn partner. That's so funny. Well, that would explain 2 Capricorn cards. Yeah, there's a lot of like specifically reverse Capricorn energy. And so because of that, I'm kind of tempted to tie in these other Earth cards with that whole sector. And to be fair, I mean, let's see here. Oh, weird. Did I read that wrong? Oh, I must have had it zoomed out on the 29th. Sorry, the moon is in Sagittarius. I said that before in the beginning, didn't I? That the moon was in Jupiter's decan of Sagittarius. No, sorry, Jupiter's bound. Oh my gosh. Jupiter's bound, Mercury's decan. For some reason I thought, oh, I think I was just talking about the moon in Capricorn because, or maybe, oh, maybe I left my, maybe I left my day thing up there. On September 29th, the moon will be in Capricorn. But yeah, it's not right now. I think I might have said that it was in Capricorn now, but that's not true. I lied. But still, you got a lot of Capricorn stuff. I wonder, you wanted to know about the week ahead, right? I wonder if that will coincide with the moon going into Capricorn. Let me find the actual like exact hour that happens. Because I don't know, could be relevant. And if it is, you should report back because that would be cool. So here we go. Okay, yeah, September 29th. Okay, so September 29th, the moon goes into Capricorn. I wonder if, because the moon specifically being related to this whole like Cancer thing, and because Jupiter is in Cancer, I wonder if when like maybe the moon is in that Mercury or opposes directly that Mercury decan, maybe that's when this kind of stuff will start happening. I don't know. Keep an eye on September 29th and see if that happens because, you know, the moon moves so fast. So when you ask a question about like, oh, what's my week going to be like or whatever, and then you get a bunch of stuff in your 7th house and then the moon happens to go in the 7th house on the 29th, like, I don't know, maybe that's something to pay attention to. That could be cool. So yeah, let me know if that works out because I wouldn't be surprised if it did, but I'd be super stoked to find out if it did. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I hope that helps you with the week ahead. My best advice would be figure out right now or start thinking about which hills you want to die on, proverbially, obviously not literally, but like which battles you really feel are worth fighting. Because it could be that there's a couple and you don't want to get too severe or overdo it. It definitely feels like there's some kind of issue that needs to be brought to the partner or will focus around the partner. It's likely material. It could deal with scarcity. It could also deal with feeling like left out in some way. I don't know if this happens to you, but like my husband likes to go hang out with his friends a lot, and then I get kind of jealous and lonely. And then we have these like weird conversations about it. I don't know, it could be something like that. That's a very like reverse 3 of Cups because it's like your good time is my displeasure. But to be fair, we're working all the time. So in his free time, I want him to want to spend time with me. But in his free time, he wants to relax and drink with his buddies. Not all the time, but sometimes. But anyway, yeah, so just keep in mind that things might get emotional at some point, and it's important to have kind of a hierarchy about like what is actually important and what just feels important in the moment. And then, yeah, I don't know, Capricorn partner might not be their best self this week in general. So yeah, and also, if anything does happen around the 29th, or it will really be from the 29th to like, let's see. So the moon stays in the same sign for like about 2.5 days or something like that. So, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry all of a sudden. Let's go. Sorry, I'm so slow at this. Yeah. So basically like the 29th to the 1st, sometime around there. Ugh, I'm so hungry. I just realized that like all I had today was leftover fried rice and some coffee. and some pumpkin bread that my sister-in-law made for me, which was delicious. But I think I'm very hungry. Anyway. Okay, so yeah, that's what I got. Lots of partner stuff, I think. Because 2 Capricorn cards. I mean, come on. Like, what are the chances? You got Cancer rising. You got a Capricorn partner. That seems like a lot of pile up testimony that there's going to be some kind of thing with the partner. Or around the partner, dealing with the partner. Things the partner is dealing with. I'm going to stop saying partner now. I hope the partner stuff... yeah, me too, Kuri. I hope it goes well. Maybe it's your body telling you it's time to ground. Yeah, it could be. My moon is like literally conjunct my IC, like the 4th house, like that angle. And it's interesting because on the one hand, it did some weird things for me. It's also like in Aries and it's got all this other drama with it. But I sometimes have a hard time sensing my like bodily cues, like for hunger and other things, especially if I'm like dedicated to a cause or like doing a thing. So also I wanted to share with you guys, guess what I've been doing? I have some head nails, and by which I mean antlers, and I've been carving runes into them. So I got this crazy idea, because I do that. I have crazy ideas sometimes, but I was like, hey, runes should be like handmade and carved and stuff. So I happen to have all of these little ethically sourced deer antlers, little tips, and I thought, oh, this would be like a cool rune set. So I started making them. I haven't finished yet. There are 25 runes and I only have, what is this, like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. I only have 11, but I thought like, hey, when I'm done with this could be like a cool thing to start making for the shop, because my husband bought me this little, like, what do you call them, what are they called, a pen? It's like a, oh, like an engraver pen. So I thought this will be soft and good to practice on, and I already made myself a set of runes with rocks, and that took forever. They were so hard. I thought antlers would be easier. In some ways they are, and in some ways they're like super not. Oh, thank you, Kuri. It says, OMG, that's beautiful. So I'm thinking I'm going to try to make this set of antler runes and then sell them on my shop, because I've already made myself like a billion sets of runes. That's like all I've been doing with this engraver thing. And it's nice because runes are so angular, so it's easy to carve into stuff. I wanted to do all the planets, but it's harder with round shapes, and there's a lot of round shapes for the planetary glyphs. So anyway, but then you could do like this thing, you know, and you could divine with the antlers, which are great because they're like bones, except you don't have to kill the animal to get them because they like regrow. Is this one? Yeah. So that's how you would do it, and you would only keep the ones that were like face up, you know, because that's what you do with rune readings. These literally take so long, guy. I don't know why I do this. I have a ton of work to do. I have all these like commissions I want to keep doing, and then I have a Cantus and Crow that I have to keep drawing, and then I also have orders to do, emails to do. I still have to figure out how I'm going to do the live to show people that I'm donating to the charity I said I was going to donate to, because nobody asked me to do that, but I just feel like it's, I don't know, the proper thing to do. Like if you tell people you're going to do something online, you should have proof, because it's hard to take people at their word these days. I mean, nobody is like asked for that, but I don't know. I just feel like it's probably a good thing to do. But I have to figure out how I'm going to do it in a way that doesn't show my address and stuff, because they like ask for your address when you make donations. Anyway, whatever. So I have to do a bunch of stuff. But then I decided that I was tired of fixing up a Cantus and Crow. So I distracted myself from work with more work and decided to make a rune set out of antlers. And I think that might be what ADHD does to you. I don't know. So, yeah, they do shed. Yeah, deer shed their antlers, and it's crazy. And it's so weird because they like grow this velvet over their antlers. And then I guess when it's time to start shedding them, it gets really itchy. So they ram it against trees and like each other and all this stuff. And there are these photos, like if you look up photos of a deer shedding its antlers, it looks so grotesque. It looks so hard, like so just like scary, because it's like the skin peels from the antlers first. Apparently it's painless, but it does not look painless. Anyway, but yes, deer shed their antlers. So they don't have to die to give them to you. You just pick them up off the ground. That's so cool. Man, I just think that's cool. They just like shed bones, because they're really like actual bones. They feel like bones. So that's kind of fun. Goofy Holy Nollie says, I started counting crows too. That's so awesome. Gray says, I can't wait for acanthus and crow. Every time I see crows, I count them and wish I knew what it meant. That's so awesome. Okay, well, let me show you guys the test deck. That's what fell on the floor earlier, so I have to pick it up. Oh, oh my gosh. Okay, so that's what I said I was going to do at the beginning of this live, was to show everybody this very small test deck of acanthus and crow. Oh yeah, I was going to tell everybody. So these are going to be available on my shop at some point, except I don't know how much to price them. They are handmade. I did do the whole ritual incense thing. They're not done yet, so the birth chart is not available. And also I was kind of doing them spontaneously. I don't know, I've been doing that a lot lately, where I'm like, sometimes things just have to be born on the days that they have to be born on. So I'm going to stop trying to control it so much with astrological elections, because I'm going a little bit crazy with it. But anyway, but I don't know how much to price these for. They take forever. They're really hard to make, and they are handmade, but that kind of also makes them look, well, you know, handmade, which can sometimes be a nice way to say wonky. So I don't know, but they're going to be cool. Oh, thank you. I said, that's really cool, by the way. What do you feed them? Oh, crows. Okay, cool. We've got crow chat. A large family of crows recently moved close to where I live. You know, Curry, I read on Google whatever chat thing that apparently crows love dog food. They love dog food and peanuts, unsalted peanuts. And I gave them some leftover dog food because I have like, I buy my dog quality dog food, but I actually do, because she's like allergic to everything. And so we give her like a really limited ingredient diet and stuff. Anyway, they really liked it. And they started coming and visiting my fountain like every morning when I was doing it consistently. I was hoping they would bring me gifts, but then I found like a dead canary head on my backyard, and I'm pretty sure they did that. And I was like, that's, I really wanted like a nice ring, you know, or like, I don't know, $1 bill. Like sometimes online crows bring people money. I was like, do that please. But no, they don't get it. Anyway, like I have this dead bird. Yeah, gifts. I'm trying to set up that exchange, you know? Anyway, but they did like the dog food, was why I brought this up. So this is my test deck for acanthus and crow. I did a little Instagram live with this a while ago, but I thought I should do one for Patreon too. So where do I start? First of all, the manufacturer that I use for my normal tarot deck runs does not do one-off little quantity decks like this. So I just get them printed at some online place. It's called like myplayingcards.com or something basic like that. And they're kind of expensive, but they do let you do just one deck of your choice. They have a couple different like cardstock options and stuff, but nothing too fancy. Although recently they did add their gold edges to the large playing card format, which is nice. The reason I bring this up is because they're not the cardstock that I'll be using for the final. These are super glossy, even though it's the matte version, so you can see the light reflected, and I hate that. Although that said, I was considering doing a linen finish, and those are kind of somewhat, they're not like glossy, but they have a little bit of reflection too, so I'll have to get over it if I want to finally make good on my desire to have a linen finish card deck, but I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Anywho, so this is the, yeah, this, I think the dollar bills on social media are a trick. They could be. This person had this like Instagram live where they were talking about how they like trained the crow to bring them money by giving them like better bread every time they brought better gifts or something like that. I don't know. And I was like, damn, that's such a cool concept. That has not been my experience with the crows, but I don't know, stranger things have happened. It might be a trick though. Anyway, okay, let's look at some cards. So yes, these are not the final like finish that I'll have. I wanted to make sure that everything like read okay, because they are very, I mean, they're, you know, the cards, they're not small. They're the same size as the Nameless One. So they'll be the same size as that. And then for reference, Here's the Children of Ostara. So you can see this is a normal tarot size. And then this is the Acanthus and Crow tarot size, or I guess I should say oracle size. And the reason I did that was because there's a ton of detail on these cards and it can be a little bit difficult to see. So one thing that I learned from the test deck was that I'm going to make the font and the number bigger. And I'm also going to have to go in and like fix up the detail. Like, I don't know if you can even see that, but hold on, maybe I'll do better if I zoom in. Yeah. So there's all this like detail on the crow's wings that you just like don't see at all. So I'm going to have to go in there and make every single line a little bit darker for all of these crows, which is, you know, a lot, but it's better that I do that now than wait later. I also, for this one, made the rams bigger. This is supposed to be the glyph for Mars. There's like a circle and then the spear going through. So I made that bigger so you can see it more easily. But just like little fixes like that. The other thing that I needed to do was to make everything a little bit less saturated and also brighter. All of these cards are much darker than I would have preferred. And that's very obvious with like some of the Gemini cards and stuff. It's less obvious with this one. Thank you. They look amazing. Yeah. I like the greenish background and the gold edge too. Thank you. I wanted to put a gold edge because these are supposed to be inspired by illuminated manuscripts, like visually. And you know, those things were like decked out in gold, but I don't like to put gold on the actual cards because I did that with the Nameless One. And even though it is super cool to see them like shiny, if you're super rough with your cards over time, they can wear off. With the Nameless One, it's kind of cool because it's almost like you're activating the sigil because you like get the cards that wear off the fastest are the ones that you usually get the most. So it's like kind of neat. And to be fair, I've only seen that happen with one person, and it was a friend I was close to who was like using the Nameless One like multiple times a day, every single day, and was pretty harsh with their cards. So I don't know, like, I know I've had this deck forever and I don't have any cards that have scraped off, but I don't like the idea that that could happen. So I'm not doing that again for any of the other decks. But I still did want there to be some gold on them. So there'll be gold on the sides and there'll be gold on the box probably. Oh, and yes, and here, somewhere in here, I think if I still have it, this was one of the alternative test decks. I decided to print the other back that I had designed for this, but I'm definitely going with this one. I think it just reads a lot better. That other one is just like way too busy. So, and we have here the Aries glyph and the Mars glyph, because this is the Mars ruled decan of the zodiac sign Aries. And I try to do that for every single one. If you guys have been watching my videos that I've been posting on Patreon, which since you are patrons, I assume that you have been, or I selfishly hope that you have been. I'm not just screaming into the void, which I'm no stranger to that either. But anyway, then you already know all about this stuff. But yeah, so this is one crow stands before sorrow, a path yet to be conquered. This is two crows bring visions of mirth, seeing no good is squandered. Three crows predict winning love, moments to jolt and rejoice. I have changed this, this line, by the way, just to try to get it to go more with the astrology. What I have changed it to is, I forget, so I have to read it. I have to find it and then read it. Where are you? Oh, not that pretty thing. I changed it to three crows fight with winning love, seizing moments to rejoice. And I changed it to that because fight, because it's a Mars sign. So we're fighting for love because Mars and Venus. And I also changed it to seizing moments to rejoice because we are taking them, because it's Mars and it's aggressive. And we're taking the moments that we need, that we love. Like we're like active in that because Mars is very active. And then another thing that I don't know if I've actually mentioned before, but each of these little couplets have 7 syllables because of the 7 visible planets, the seven sacred planets visible to the ancients, right? So they all do that. So I was really neurotic about it. Yeah. Three crows fight with winning love, seizing moments to rejoice. They all have that meter. One crow stands before sorrow, a path yet to be conquered. All of them have 7 syllables. So the meter should work out. Yes. Let me get these in order and then I'll just read what we have so far because I don't know. I like it. I like that function of the deck. But yes, now you can start counting crows and then finding out what they mean, attaching them to the cards / decans. Where's my other Gemini card? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You know what's funny about this? The original nursery rhyme thing that I like used as a springboard for this whole idea only goes to 11. And I've told people that, like, I don't know who I tell what to at this point, honestly, but so the original one only has like one line per thing. It's 1 crow stands for sorrow, 2 is for mirth, 3 is for love, 4 is for birth, 5 is for laughing, 6 is for crying, 7 is for sickness, 8 is for dying, 9 is for silver, 10 is for gold, and 11 is for a secret soon to be told. And I extended all of those. I made 36 of them, and then I also made them couplets, and I made sure that they matched in terms of the astrology. I wanted it to speak to the decan, and I also wanted it to speak to the numerology. So I really tried to make these like little couplets give as much information as humanly possible with as few words as possible. That was kind of like the mission of this card deck, poem-wise. So yes, 1 crow stands before sorrow, a path yet to be conquered. 2 crows bring visions of mirth, seeing no good is squandered. 3 crows predict winning love, moments to jolt and rejoice. I should say 3 crows fight with winning love, seizing moments to rejoice. 4 crows foretell a new birth, new hopes and fears given voice. 5 crows are madly laughing, fair, comfortable, and well fed. 6 crows hear mournful crying, prayers for the withered and dead. 7 crows carry sickness, knowledge its cause and its cure. 8 crows flock over the dying, for nothing earthborn is pure. 9 crows create alloyed gold when unity can be made. 10 crows are given silver and the loving mother's aid. 11 crows know secrets that by loose lips shall be told. And then for the last decan of Cancer, but I don't have it done yet. Sorry. So that's all I got. And then fast forward, etc., etc. And then we get to Pisces. 34 crows turn away from false cage and false token. 35 crows near the end and soar over the vast ocean. 36 crows flood the sky and set fate into motion. So some of these cards we've actually gotten before in today's little live thing, and I'm going to talk about just those cards so that we can compare them to these ones. So literally this is the 10 of Cups. 36 crows flood the sky and set fate into motion. So this is the idea that we're co-creators with our reality. We're coming from this oneness of Pisces and we're moving with action because it's Mars, and we're going into Aries where where we stand before sorrow and there's a path yet to be conquered, right? Because here we're like at the end of the journey, we're watching the sunset, we have the happily ever after, we have the beautiful families, and we have also this like skeleton and spear in the water, because it's like all of that stuff that we fought for, and was it worth it, and did it work out, and was it worth the sacrifice? And you'll notice that like the parents of the little mer children, I forgot, I have to zoom in like this, they all have scars all over them. They've got like battle scars, literally battle scars, because they fought for their children's security and safety, because that's kind of like what we get with Pisces. We're fighting for our dreams. We're fighting to be like good. We're fighting with the ambient chaos of nature to like try to make something of it, like make life happen. And then the idea that we're co-creators with our reality. So the crows flood the sky and set fate into motion, and their motion is what causes fate, and then also fate is what causes their motion. So it's cyclical and it's both, right? They're doing the thing, and the thing is saying you're doing the thing because you're doing it, and you're doing it because they said you're doing it. So it's that kind of thing. So we've talked about this already, right? Because it's like, oh, this idea of like, you know, the 10 of Cups is this perfect domestic bliss, happily ever after card, but it's also like, are we fighting for an illusion, for a non-reality? You know, we say that it's all this really nice stuff, but what's, you know, rotting in the what's the corpse behind you, you know, sinking in the ocean. So that's that. So we went over that one. We also talked about the 2 of Wands briefly. This is the ability to rule yourself with virtue and sovereignty and grace. So this is 2 crows bring visions of mirth, seeing no good is squandered. Because ideally, as a ruler, that's what you want to do, right? You want to maximize and prolong the good. You want to do it in a way that is pleasing to your vision, and you want to make sure that that goodness is not squandered or wasted. That power, that virtue, right? Because this is about Aries, and yeah, Aries is kind of pretty intrinsically linked to power. And this is the sun decan of Aries. So this is where we decide how we use our power. And we also talked about some Gemini stuff. Which Gemini one did we talk about? I'm forgetting now. Or maybe we just talked about Gemini in general. Maybe we didn't have like a specific decan card. Oh, but we did talk about this. This was in Nollie's reading. We talked about the Five of Pentacles, which is the fourth crow here. 4 crows foretell a new birth, new hopes and fears given voice, right? Because now that we have something we care about, we want to look to how natural cycles are perpetuated and then maximize them as much as possible. So that's going to include inventing technology, figuring out how cycles normally work, trying to circumvent the inevitable death and demise of things, right? So this is like, on the one hand, it's a scarcity card because you're worried about how long can this last and how do you make it last. On the other hand, it's also a resourceful card because like you're coming up with plans and contingency plans and figuring out how it's going to work. And the reason that you're motivated to do this is because of, because of Venus, because of love and babies and tenderness and community and all of those nice Tauran things, because of the herd, right? You want to protect the herd. You want to protect the community. You want to make sure that everybody has enough beautiful apples. And to do that, you're going to have to enslave the cattle. You're going to have to make technology. And the technology is going to exploit somebody, whether it's cows or people who you don't know or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have to be like that, but that's the way it seems to work. Sorry. You have to laugh to keep from crying, This kind of fucking sucks, but I don't know. But yeah, so basically for all of these, I have to go in and just like all of that detail. Like there's a ton of detail in these feathers and they just get totally lost. So I have to go in and make that more of a thing. I also took out these 2 stars and I made it snowing because, this is the Saturn ruled decan of Taurus. So we're looking at the limitations of the material world and eventually everything dies, right? Eventually your crops will wither. You'll experience a snowstorm. You won't figure out how to do it right. Saturn's going to come knocking and you'll reap what you sow or what you didn't, I guess. So anyway, also like in the later degrees of Taurus, there's like the fixed star El Ghul. He kind of sucks. I don't know. He won't be there forever, but he is right now. So, it's kind of rough, the last couple degrees of Taurus, I'm told. Anyway, so yeah, I told you I'd give you a preview of Acanthus and Crow, so I officially have a little test deck. I would draw some cards for you, but it's not a full deck, and I couldn't do a serious reading with 12 cards. That's not a complete deck. But I suppose we could just do like a little test run, a meaningless little shuffle. It's not a real reading. This can't be a real reading because we don't have the cards. But that said, let's pull some cards. Oh, thank you. Curry Star and Goofy Oli Nollie say the crows are beautiful, and I say thank you. Which I should read the comments, in case anyone watches this video and is like, what is she responding to? But then I think, well, that's presumptuous. Maybe no one will ever watch this video after it's been produced, which is fine. Anyway, but yeah, maybe this, I don't know. Is this a Venus return thing? Curry Star has Venus in Virgo. How's that been going for you? Okay. Cool. So, 34 crows turn away from false cage and false token. 4 crows foretell a new birth, new hopes and fears given voice, and 1 crow stands before sorrow, a path yet to be conquered. So if I were giving a legitimate reading, which I'm not because we do not have a complete deck, but if I were, I would say something like, okay, so turning away from false cage and false token, this is Saturn's decan of Pisces. We're figuring out what is actually valuable and what is not. What is spiritually uplifting and what is actually weighing you down. This is when we like, you know, you accumulate all of the trophies and then you realize it's meaningless because you sacrificed all of your time and energy to get to a place that like didn't actually do anything for you. It's very much abandoning the material in pursuit of a stronger spiritual foundation. Saturn can often speak to foundations, and Pisces is really very often speaking about spiritual stuff in my experience, or like imaginary stuff or non-tangible things a lot of the time. Do you guys hear my dog rumbling? She's like so mad at me right now. I think it's because it's past her bedtime and she wants me to go to bed. Anyway, so I would say like, okay, so we're turning away from false tokens, false senses of security, false stability, and we're looking towards, you know, new hopes and new fears and like, what if it doesn't work? Oh my goodness, can you please drop it? Why are you growling at me? Stop it. You know it spooks me. You know I'm convinced that you're seeing ghosts. You have to stop doing it. And she's just telling me, go to bed, go to bed, go to bed. Stop just laying on the floor and being sad. Stop it. No, now she wants to play. Ugh, she's always playing. I play with this dog so much and she's never satisfied. Well, she's like a 1-year-old puppy. But anyway, so if I was giving this reading, I would say like, okay, so we're abandoning something, leaving something behind, something that meant a lot to us in the past, but we're realizing doesn't actually have that much spiritual or emotional substance. And we're looking to something new, figuring out a new cycle. We want to grow or build something. And it's the start of this like new journey where, you know, we're not sure if it's going to work or not. So we're very trepidatious. And we know that by virtue of starting something new, we will encounter new obstacles and new issues. And we're trying to think about how to get ahead of that before we've even started. And of course, this is literally the test deck that I made to figure out if there will be issues, how you're going to get ahead of it and stop it. So I guess this was a legitimate reading after all. Anyway. Yeah, Magic is grumpy. She's like, if you're not going to go to bed, then you have to throw this bone for me. And it's just, guys, literally, if I lay on the couch for 3 seconds, she'll like run over and give me her toys, and then I have to throw them for her. And she's crazy. She might sound like she's been so neglected and no one ever will love her or has loved her because she's so upset, but like, she's so spoiled. Miss Magic, you are so spoiled. You're ruining my life. Anyway, it's over. So, okay. Anyway, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. It's always so nice when I have an audience to ask questions because I feel like that's more fun than just, you know, talking to the planets, which that can be fun too. I've had some pretty fun conversations with the planets, but it's more fun to talk to people, I think, in this case. So anyway, thank you. Good luck, Kuri Star, on your astrology reading. Let me know how it goes. That is very exciting. And good luck, Oli Nollie, with your naughty Capricorn. I hope they work their shit out. Sounds like it's going to be a ride. So I'll see you guys later. Have fun. Thanks for coming.